Hi everyone, welcome back to Digital Hustle Career Pathway 101. It's been a little while since we last connected, and we are so excited to be back bringing you behind the scenes of today's most in demand digital careers. I'm your host, Shamima Raihan Manzoor, and as always, I'm joined by my fantastic co host, Shahida.
Hey everyone. Yes, we're back. It's been a minute. And today's episode is something you guys do not want to miss. It doesn't matter if you're a student, if you're a recent grad, or just trying to break into the field of digital marketing. We're going to cover the skills, strategies, and insights that will help you stand out. Without further ado, let's dive into our episode titled What Gets You Hired in Digital Marketing?
Digital marketing in Canada has exploded over the past few years. Did you know 33 million Canadians owned a smartphone in 2024? And online retail sales skyrocketed from $2 billion to $4.4 billion in just 2021. This surge is driving demand for roles in SEO, social media, content, analytics, and PPC, with digital jobs projected to grow 10% annually by the end of 2024, according to Mission CTRL, and the Canadian Job Bank predicts 73,700 digital marketing job openings between 2022 and 2031. So there's real opportunity out there.
Absolutely. And to help us unpack what it really takes to get hired in digital marketing, we've brought in a true expert, Ali Abbas. Ali first discovered SEO back in 2014 during a university project. Fast forward to today, he's helped companies rank for thousands of keywords, driven tens of thousands of visitors, and trained over 6,000 students online.
Ali has also shared his expertise at DX3 Conference, Staples Canada, York University, and Toronto Metropolitan University. He's the founder of the SEO Button, a consultancy that has helped dozens of businesses grow through ethical, effective SEO. Ali, we are so thrilled to have you back on the mic.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Excited to be here.
Let's kick things off. Ali, when it comes to entry level digital marketers, what key skills and competencies do you look for?
So, in terms of key competencies and skills, especially when it comes to new marketers, it's kind of hard to like the fact of the matter is it's very unlikely that they're going to have any. It's most likely they haven't like they've gotten the theory down of things, but they haven't really gotten the experience. So, really, what I would be looking for is someone who's passionate and has taken initiative. So, like how I perceive passion is if you're passionate about something you're someone who's doing it. So if you're passionate about digital marketing, it's not good enough that you studied in university. It means that you've gone out and you've applied those skills. So you've helped your aunt with her restaurant and done some digital marketing there. You've helped your friend out. So like that's what we're really looking for. Even if you haven't done a masterful job, at least you've gone out and taken the initiative because you're gonna learn 10 times more from doing something than actually just learning about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, my question to you, Ali, would be for someone who does not have a formal education in digital marketing.
Mhm.
For instance, me, I do not have any experience in digital marketing. The smallest things probably I've done is help make posters for projects, probably fairs or volunteering work that I've done. Do you think that could be considered as some sort of experience in digital marketing?
Yeah, so the fact of the matter is, at least from my perspective, a lot of the people who become really successful in digital marketing, they have no background in digital marketing. And that was something funny that I learned when I was entering like the tech scene. It was a lot of like the heads of different companies that were doing really well. They actually had no background in marketing at all. So I actually view this as an advantage that you didn't that you didn't really take like the marketing route and you kind of got placed into it. But yeah, any experience that you do is going to be beneficial to you learning and getting in those reps because honestly that's like the best way to learn is through experimentation, taking some action, putting yourself out there and getting feedback from what's actually working. Yeah, ultimately it's connecting with the customer, what they want, what they're looking for and just being able to communicate what your product does and how it fits into their lifestyle needs.
I do have a follow up question with that. So, as for someone who does not have, again, a formal education, so there are like a bajillion digital marketing tools in the world currently, for instance, Google Analytics, HubSpot, Meta Ad Manager, and so on and so forth. Which ones do you think that the new hires should focus on?
So it all begins with reporting. You need to understand the numbers in order to make decisions. So it's really dependent on what you're trying to get into. So that's the other thing. You have to specialize. Like you can't like it's extremely hard to be a generalist, especially early on, because a lot of people are generalists. So like it really depends on your specialty. If you're going into meta, if you're going into SEO, if you're going to content. So you're gonna have different tools or skill set that you're gonna have to learn. But I think for everyone, just like you need to learn Google Analytics, you need to learn some of these other analytical tools because those are the ones that are pretty much across like they're homogenous. They are represented across every single skill set that you're going to go after. So learning some kind of analytical and tracking tools, that's extremely important.
So, Ali, you're talking about analytics. With that, I want to add on the next question for you. How important is it for graduates to understand data and make data driven decisions?
It's extremely important. It needs to be balanced with just your own intuition. There's no such thing as like perfect data. So you're always going to be operating from some level of unknown. So you have to balance both data as well as just your own intuition, your own marketing skills, listening to the customers, taking in that qualitative feedback. And then ultimately, you have to build up to something big. It's very rare that someone just launches a campaign and does really well. It's usually through experimentation. So, for example, if you're doing Google Ads, maybe you're spending a little bit of budget, like the bulk of your budget is going towards your target keywords, and then you introduce a small budget for just different experimentations. And then maybe one of the experiments works really well, and then you try to analyze why it worked well. So you give it more funds, so you give it more time and resources, and you really try to understand why it's working well. So data is really important. It's just I feel as if people take a more like I need to know everything before I can make a decision, where really it's like doing small experiments and sort of testing it out. And then going with the winners and eliminating the losers.
All right, that's an interesting take. We do have a tendency of making things perfect before we move forward with it. But Ali has pointed out something really interesting. It's like an iterative process where you first take a small chunk, test it out, and then probably go back and refresh or do something different depending on how it's performing, which is a fantastic idea for the newcomers there. So, my follow up question would be regarding the new graduates who are just dipping their pedal digits into the world of marketing, right? So the first question that comes to their mind is, okay, what can I do to stand out in this very competitive field, which is digital marketing? So, in your opinion, which qualities do you think that these newcomers can have that can help them stand out?
Yeah, for me, how I did it was I created a course. I initially got hired just through like perseverance and hard work. I got my foot in the door into like a part-time sort of marketing role, and then I really leveraged that because like even though it was part-time, I kind of treated it as full-time, and I really like dove into it, experimented a whole bunch of different stuff. Got good at SEO, and then as soon as that happened, I basically created a course on SEO, which did really well on the Udemy platform. And then that helped me land my second job, which was more in SEO and actual marketing job. So really, like I had to build a course in order to even get like a full time role or consideration. So you have to think outside the box. You have to display your knowledge. No one's like inside your head. No one knows what you've been up to. So once again, it's about demonstrating your expertise, and that really puts you a lot more ahead of the pack than other people. Apart from that, when you're interviewing, like going prepared. So how I got my first even part-time role was I studied the job description, and then I created like a marketing plan around it. So the person couldn't even interview me. I just had a presentation. I handed them the folder. I'm like, this is what you want done. This is how I would do it. The person actually came up to me and he was like, we had people with like 10 years of experience applying for this role, but we chose you who has no experience because you showed us what you would do if you got hired. So these are the little things that you have to do in order to get your foot in the door.
Yeah, I think that that is an absolute fantastic way to showcase what I have, what abilities I have, the potential I can show to my employer is the best way to get that first chance, getting that impression. So with that, I would like to ask Ali regarding building portfolios. That is a challenge for many of the graduates. They don't know what actually they should work on. Just now we are talking about like you have actually created a plan before you made the interview and then you presented that one. So, what should graduates absolutely include? Campaigns, content samples, analytics reports, anything you would like to suggest?
Yeah, so I would basically just say if you're in that situation, you're already kind of behind. Most of the hiring happens kind of like when the job posting is posted. Usually the best jobs go to people that other people already know. So if you're in that situation, you have to understand that you're in an uphill battle because you could be the best person, you could stand out the most, but somebody else is a little bit more referred within the agency or within the company, and they're the ones who end up getting the job. So it's a two edged sword, I guess. Like it's a two-pronged plan. So firstly, you have to become an expert in what you're doing and be able to apply that knowledge and then communicate what actually were the results of you applying that knowledge. So this could be, once again, like anything. You can open an Etsy store and try to market that or something. So it's not like it has to be some brilliant campaign. It just kind of demonstrate that you know what you're doing and that you're willing to apply it. That's number one. And then number two is just networking. Like you'd be amazed. But once you know the right people, it can really open a lot of doors. But once again, you have to be at that level where they be interested in talking to you and they recognize you as an expert. Yeah. So really demonstrate your passion and make an effort to be around the right people, because the chances are it's way easier to get into a role if you already have someone championing you within the company itself. So that would be my advice.
So, what about the students, those who are pursuing any kind of degrees in digital marketing, and they usually need to prepare like assignments, projects, a lot of presentations. So, would you suggest that they could also use those as their portfolios when they're facing interviews?
I'm sure they could. But as someone who's hired a lot of people who in the digital marketing space, like that's not very uncommon. So you might have worked on school projects, but so did everybody else who went to school. What really stands out is what you've done beyond that. Like what's something interesting that you're working on. Maybe once again, for me, it was I created a course and it did really well. So it took me a year, probably a year and 2 months to create that course, but it ended up opening up so many different doors. And once again, like I feel as if you're in a situation where you're not already recommended within the company, it's an uphill battle. Like you have to knock their socks off, right? So once again, I think reading the job description and then building a plan around it so they don't really have a chance to interview you. Like if you're asking me a question, I don't know what you're going to ask me. So like I could answer it wrong. So really, like as soon as they're done asking you the first questions, what's your name, why are you interested, like you need to hop in and try to control that meeting and try to present your vision and your perspective. That's how you're going to stand out. It's school projects are great, but you need to go a little bit beyond that.
Totally agreed.
I do believe that there are different kinds of people out there. There are different kinds of graduate from digital marketing courses. So let's kind of focus on people who do not have extraordinary experience and they're going like the usual pathway of like having a simple portfolio, right, from their school. So, Ali, in your opinion, these students, do you think that what would actually be more impactful? Would it be individual projects or like team collaborations or a mix of two for their portfolios, which would be impactful for their job search?
Yes, so it needs to be, in my personal perspective, I want to hire someone who I'm not going to have to coach through the entire process. Like the more experience you have that is identical to what I need you to do, that's the best experience that I could really go after. So regardless whether it's an individual project, a team project, if I'm hiring an SEO person, I want to see that they've done something in SEO. Because to be honest with you, the first 6 months you're gonna learn the most. So like I would prefer it if you've already spent that 6 months at somewhere else and kind of work through those kinks and problems. So yeah, it really depends on how relevant the experience is. I think beyond that, I wouldn't really have too much of an opinion. It boils down to how relevant that experience is.
So you would say it doesn't matter if it's individual or group, just relevant experiences? Or would you say like all the experiences you have had, even remotely close to marketing, which ones should they?
Whatever is the most relevant.
This is something that many of the graduates, even those people who are in the early career stage in digital marketing, always struggle with these portfolios and building a good portfolio to impress employers. So, with that, I would like to ask Ali that are there specific tools or formats you recommend for presenting a portfolio?
Once again, I think bringing it back to what the person is looking for is going to yield you the best results. So you could have a portfolio, that's fine, and you could present it any way, but you have to tie it back to what the company is looking for, what the person who's hiring you is really looking for. So being informed about what they're looking for, that should really help guide your decision making. And if you're going for a company, be focusing on how your skills can apply to what they're currently doing. So once again, it kind of really just boils down to relevance. Like instead of having 15 projects that you've done in different spaces, why not just study the job outline and create a project based on what the job outline is telling you or based on the company? I think that's what's really going to help you stand out. Like, yeah, especially when you're kind of going through a lot of resumes, you're kind of just flipping through them. You're not spending too much time there. And like the most beautiful name is your own name, right? In everyone else's world. So like if you can have like a project which focuses on the company, what they need, mentions them, uh, and it shows how your skills would apply to their situation, that's the best thing. Apart from that, it's kind of hard for me to say because you're making very slight improvements here there, but the big one is just relevance.
Absolutely.
All right. Moving a little bit further from portfolios and interviews, I'd like to touch base on digital marketing enthusiasts. Okay. So let's say someone who is about to graduate in 6 months or a year's time, or someone who's just, again, experiencing digital marketing from a different field. They know that digital marketing is a very fast evolving field. So what would your advice be to them to keep up with the fast-paced evolvement or the trends that are out there for digital marketing?
So I think it begins with becoming a little bit more focused on what direction you want to take because the trends vary quite a bit, right? So there's some macro trends that happen. AI is a macro trend that's happening. But there's many trends that are happening in SEO. There's many trends that are happening in PPC, pay per click. There's many trends that are happening on Meta and on Reddit marketing. So the first and most important thing is you have to become specific, right? Like what niche are you going into industry wise? What specifically do you want to do in that industry? Like once you do that, it becomes a lot easier because if you're trying to learn general trends that are happening, like how much time do you have? I could barely keep up with the SEO trends that are going on. So becoming very specific about what you want to learn about is very important. And then apart from that, like at an early stage, just honing in on the basics, like what does the reporting mean? Like how do I interpret a report from GA4? How do I gather information from the customers? Like these are the more foundational skills that you need. Apart from just studying trends, you need to learn about the analytical side of things. You need to learn deeply about how to gather information about the customers and from the customers. You need to learn how to communicate. I think that's probably one of the biggest differentiators in people who do really well and people who don't do really well is that they are unable, they could be rock stars, but if you are not able to communicate your ideas, you're not able to sell your ideas to the company, you're in a lot of trouble because they will never get pushed through. So being able to communicate, like that's humongous. So apart from just studying these trends, you also need to really in the early stages focus on the foundational stuff, reporting, analytics, communication, stuff like that.
So, with that, Ali, I would like to ask about the skill development part for those who are interested to join digital marketing world. So, which certifications or courses could really boost a graduate's chance of landing a job?
So, what skills and certifications? Once again, comes down to being specific, especially early on. The Number one way you're going to break through is because the generalist hiring you doesn't know enough about the one thing that you were better than everybody else on planet Earth. Once you know what you want to get into in terms of digital marketing, is it customer acquisition, is it growth, is it demand gen, is it CRO. There's a whole bunch of different things, and then you can learn more about those specific things. YouTube is a great resource, Maven courses is a great resource, but probably the best resource is just experience, like being very specific about what you want to get really good in, and then applying it and then sharing those learnings. Because to be honest with you, there is a lot of information that you can get, but experience is the best. And then apart from that, if you're just coming out of university, stuff like that, the really good courses, the really good stuff, it's quite expensive to get into those sort of things. And you have to take a lot of them. So probably early on is not the best time to do that. Podcasts are really good. Yeah, but once again, it just kind of boils down to what you're specializing in, and there's a million resources that you can learn from. And then if you can actually apply it, and you can communicate what you learned from applying it, that's better than any certification you can really get.
So, with that, one more thing I'd like to ask regarding free courses. Like there are certain courses in Google or HubSpot which is free. Would you recommend that it would be wiser to start with doing those free courses?
Once again, I could generalize, but once you know, I think you need to spend a lot of time, or more time sort of considering which area of marketing you want to specialize in. Once that's done, I think the course becomes a lot easier. What you need to learn, how you need to learn it, it's going to become very obvious to you. If you're asking yourself these types of questions, it just means you're not specific enough about what you want to do. Because do you want to do digital marketing in the construction space? Do you want to do PR in SaaS products? So like there's a lot of different mixes, and once you find out exactly what you're trying to go after, it becomes super easy to gain the knowledge, but you have to form the question first.
I think what Shamima is trying to say is, are free courses worth it at all for people who are just trying to get to know which niche they want to get into? So, is that a good idea, or do you think it's a waste of time, as some may call it, because it's free?
It depends on how much time you have, to be honest with you. But I think probably, so in terms of free courses, some are good, some are bad, just like anything else in life. In terms of trying to learn what you want to do by taking courses, I think probably taking a step back is better. I think it's better to understand what you want to learn and then start learning it. And I think probably the best way to understand what you want to learn is just through firstly just intuition, because you kind of know inside like what you're good at and what you want to do more of, but also just conversations like this one that we're having, or going to networking events, really understanding where the market is sort of moving. And I always like to think of it like taking what you have to offer, and then you're looking at what the market wants and you're combining the two. It's never just what you want, it's never going to be just what the market wants. You have to combine what you're good at and what the market wants, and that is where you're really going to be successful. That's where you can survive and you can thrive. So once again, free courses, some good, some bad. If you want to learn, I would recommend learning from other people as opposed to courses on what direction you should go. You should really assess what you're good at. You should assess what the market wants and needs in the future, right now and in the future, and then you should learn that.
I just would like to add one more thing with these certifications, and we discuss a lot about portfolio today in our conversation. So, what are some common mistakes graduates should avoid in their portfolios?
Probably just once again taking it back to what the person is exactly looking for, like relevance to the marketplace. So like let's just say you're applying for a job which is really heavily focused on email marketing, but you present something about your project which is SEO. Like that's not very compelling, right? Job you're going in for, you should have like a project in mind that you can at least bridge the gap and kind of show how your project is relevant to the meat and bones of the job that you're really going for. So maybe in your SEO project, you're not talking about backlink building or the technical side of things, because that's irrelevant to the email marketing heavy role. What you want to do is you want to talk about the copywriting and maybe the managing of writers, maybe the setup of different products and tools. So like within each project, you should be able to tie it back to what the company wants. And don't assume that people will do it for you, because tons of resumes come down the pipe and you're kind of going through them and you're looking, at least for me, my eye is always on who already has that sort of relevant experience that can sort of kickstart that journey. And then also it's just about attitude and just, feel for the person.
So, Ali, what I got from you with this uh, mistakes that the graduates shouldn't make, that is to make the resume overwhelming, putting too many things like the digital marketing, a lot of context, a lot of tools, a lot of branches are there. So they have to be very specific based on the job they're looking for, and making the resume particularly aligning with the job roles. That's what you're trying to emphasize.
Exactly. Here.
Thank you. That's a great answer. All right. So, finally, to wrap everything up, Ali, what is your top advice for fresh graduates trying to get their first digital marketing job?
I will give it to you as plainly as possible. The cards are stacked against you in numerous different ways. Obviously, people who already have a job have a way easier time getting another job because they kind of are in the industry, they got an experience, they've had those conversations, they have peers that can recommend them, and that's how most of the good jobs actually work. It's not that, the good jobs are the ones that are getting posted on different job websites. It usually works like this: the CEO goes to the CMO, goes, hey, we need to hire out for this specific thing. That CMO will go to a Slack channel and or LinkedIn, and they'll message their friends and they'll just be like, hey, do you know anyone who's hiring? 80%, 50 to 80% of the chance that in that specific peer group, the person already knows somebody, and that person gets catapulted to the top. And then the person might interview some people just as a backup, but they already know who's going to get hired, to be honest with you. And that happens in most situations. Apart from that, the other way that the deck is sort of stacked against you is that there's a lot of, especially in the early entry level jobs, that there's a lot of allegiance. So certain people from certain schools will only hire out of those specific schools, or they'll only hire out from specific schools. So unless you went to those schools and you're in those circles, it's kind of hard to break in. And even if you're in those circles, if you're not part of like the top tier of those circles, you're just not considered, because that's how the sort of chain works, right? Like that's how they protect their dominance in certain companies, is because they only let in people who are exactly like them. That's kind of how it works. But the good side is that even though all of that is going on, there's still immense amounts of opportunity, but you have to stand out. You have to break out in some way. Now, there's a couple of different ways you can try to do that. You could, the way once again that I did it was immediately as soon as I got hired, I learned a lot about SEO, and I was able to create a course, which basically opened a whole bunch of doors for me. It took me a year and like 2 months or a year and a half to make, but that was a really good decision because it put me into a lot of conversations. Not everyone has a course, not everyone has a good course. So these are the ways you can sort of stand out. You have to become more specialized, because unless you're more specialized, it's extremely hard to stand out. Like you can't stand out through generalizations. Picking something that once again the market is looking for, that you're good at, and then really becoming a specialist in that, and then demonstrating your knowledge through either a project or training or something that puts you out into that marketplace. I think those are all my tips. I think if you push hard enough, you should be able to crack through. Networking, once again, is humongous. So I went to my sister's graduation and it started raining, and there was this person next to me. He has an umbrella, and he's just like, hey, you can just come under my umbrella. And he's like very nicely dressed. So I'm like, what do you do? He's like, oh, I run a business. And I'm like, okay, can you give me some advice on like just what you wish you would have done? And he was basically like, he basically told me I started my business when I was 22, which was the dumbest idea, because what I should have done was I should have joined a company that does exactly what I do, so that I could have made all those mistakes on their dime. I could have learned from them. And then when I started my company, it would have been a lot easier. The same thing applies here, right? So if you can get your foot into the door, if you can start learning how to actually work at some of these companies, because doing your job is part of your role, but learning how to work within the company is another thing. Like you have to understand how to communicate. So specialize in something, demonstrate that you're good at it, some way, network so that, people actually know you and that when an opportunity comes around, they can actually recommend you. And then, uh, just getting your foot in the door. Just once you get your foot in the door, it becomes a lot easier.
Ali, thank you so much for sharing such practical, actionable insights. I know our listeners, especially students and early career marketers, are walking away feeling more confident and ready to take on the digital marketing world.
Absolutely. And to all our listeners, it feels amazing to be back. Stay curious, keep experimenting, and keep learning. Don't forget to subscribe to Digital Hustle Career Pathway 101 for more insider and career tips.